Hi, welcome to my channel. I'm Lauracrapo, and uh, today I'm gonna do a reading on. Just trying to see what's in the background. Uh, the Mississippi River in the United States. Um, it's funny, like when I say United States, like I feel like they could like change the country name at some point. Um, I mean, like I know this is like kind of an aside, but you know how like certain states like want independence? It's kind of like how here in Quebec, in Canada, Quebec has wanted independence. And like if you look at how big Quebec is, it's like bigger than, I don't know, is it as big as the entirety of Europe or something? Like it's really big. Uh, you know, um, like driving distances are really like hours and hours. So, um, in a way, like, okay, really like another aside, like, like in Toronto when I was growing up in the 80s, late 70s, 80s, it was all like different villages. And then at some point, like when just this sort of this kind of like really commercial vibe like kind of entered politics, I guess in the 80s, but like it started in the 80s, but then it like became gross like in the 90s and stuff. Like it really gelled or something. Um you could say that like Reagan was like the jello powder being shaken in and then stirred and then it like gelled like in the 90s or something. Um and because we're neighbors with the states, like we catch a bit of the vibe there politically, even though it's like a different system, but the sort of bro um, hand holding is taking place between the States and Canada. It seems like a common mission kind of thing. Um, okay. And so like in Toronto, they had these different villages, like we lived on the border of like Leaside and Toronto. So and then Leaside, like it had this cool kind of like mid-century kind of cute cottage. I don't know how to describe it, but it was very like intact, kind of architecturally cute kind of village with its own vibe. And like when you crossed Bayview Avenue, like you really felt the shift. And they had like their own way of doing stuff. And then some genius decided to make Toronto like a mega city where all these little villages were like destroyed and like made into like a big giant urban sprawl or whatever, with no longer with those separate personalities and sort of community missions and stuff. So that also happened in Montreal at one point because Montreal has these little villages like Outremont, Town of Mount Royal, Westmount, and like they made it into a mega city too, but then everyone hated it, I guess, and they like reverted back to the villages. And like I guess I'm glad that I'm able to like see that, or like I lived in different neighborhoods like Mile End and Westmount and stuff, and got to feel like how different they are when they're just really walking distance apart and stuff. So I kind of get it when provinces or states want to separate, because like it's like, hey, like we're not like, let's say Texas, like we're not California, we're not New York, like we have a different climate and needs, and like please let us run our stuff like ourselves. Like it makes sense in a way, like uh community based or like grassroots stuff, it like makes more sense than having like one big like blanket over like a large area with like very different needs and whatever. Like I'm just saying, like from my observations in life as an older person, like seeing changes happen and stuff, like it seemed more successful to me like when things were run like community run and stuff. Anyway, so where was I going with this? Let's let this truck pass. I live like on this corner where there's a hill, so there's a lot of construction. Okay, all right, we can do it. Like, somebody's got an ambitious project going on. So okay. All right. So like, right, I was talking about how they might change the the name of what is now known as the United States of America. Um, it's just like a feeling I got. I'm not like I'm not asking for that. It's just something I picked up when I started the reading. Maybe I'll like sort of see what I think that has to do with, other than perhaps some states' desire to separate or whatever. I mean, it does sort of feel like a fracture into like three parcels, like northeast, southwest, and northwest. I guess like kind of like that. Like that's what it feels like. Anyway, okay. Does that feel good or bad? Or it feels kind of like because the government right now there is like like I don't want to whatever, but when there's no leadership that is truly like of the people, um then like people are kind of like might reject that leadership and start sort of DIYing things, because I mean everybody should take part anyway, um and not just like sleepily uh, you know allow things to go without observation or whatever. um yeah, it kind of just feels like people are more like taking part, and like because of also the technology that exists today, like which I'm on right now, um communication, like solutions, everything's just like way sped up. So you can blame it on technology. Like the changes happen anyway. Um, but the old structure of politics is like, it seems like a medieval play right now. Like it seems very old fashioned with the internet and everybody having a sort of equal voice, equal if you can afford internet and whatever. But Yeah, this sort of like people in suits, a small group of people in suits, like discuss like it's the discussion has become like fractally larger, and so like, and that's sort of like the the leadership right now is sort of cartoonishly representing the ineffective and like, you know, it's what's that show called? All I can think of is the theme song, like Love and Marriage. It's that family. It's like a sitcom. I can't remember what it's called, but I totally know what it's called, but I can't think of it. But anyway, you know. Uh it's like the leadership right now comes off like a bad sitcom. Like, and it doesn't reflect the true nature of like what is actually happening right now. And sometimes people can't like fully comprehend like what's going on until like people talk about it for years and years, and like let's say 10 years later they're like, well, this was happening like in 2025, and you know. But we kind of have to like tune into like ourselves, like the changes. And you know, if you just think of all these different parts, these different actors in our lives, like leaders and whatever, as if you just sort of freeze it, sort of matrix style, or like dust in the air, like in the sunlight, and just kind of look at it without getting too triggered or attached to anything. You just sort of look at how things are, like in truth, like set up. Um, the difference between like one person's voice, like speaking through the media, and like all the other truths and voices, like which are so much like greater than that. Uh, like then it makes sense that things would shift from like a old fashioned format. Anyway, I could go on and on about that. So okay, back to the Mississippi. Maybe the Mississippi plays into this like division of uh, lines of territories. I mean, obviously, like a lot of people draw maps around like rivers and stuff like that. Okay, where are we going? We're going Mississippi. The vibe, like you know how like in Miyazaki, what is it? I forgot, Spirited Away or something. Is there like a river spirit in that one, or I think so. Um, so I'm trying to like tune into the spirit of the Mississippi River, but I get this sort of like talking energy. So I'm like, what is that? Like I pick up energies from like, you know how like when the French king brought over a bunch of French soldiers around that area, and that's why you have like Louisville and like named after the king and whatever. And also like in the South you have a lot of like sort of French words, like like Mabel, like Mabel, or like nicknames like Muffy, which is like a Muffy, like my girl, like my daughter, whatever, and stuff like that. So I'm picking up on this language, talking, just arguing kind of energy from the Mississippi right now, I guess. Also, like other conflicts historically between people and like um, different groups of people uh, took place around there that was like sad and violent and stuff. Um, it feels like so many stories that it's like almost impossible to process. So, what is that energy giving way to? So, I feel like that pressure, like energetically, in the river and the consciousness of the river, uh, is going to create this sort of breakaway tributary like branch of the Mississippi River that branches off south west from like a bit of a midpoint, but like maybe the last third and down. So like let's say there was rising waters, which obviously have been taking place here and there in the States, tragically. And like if the Great Lakes are feeding the Mississippi, I'm not sure how that works, but I'm guessing that might have something to do with it. Because I know the Great Lakes feed the St. Lawrence River, which is our big river here. It feels like a lot of conflict energy, like at the top part of Mississippi. I'm not sure like where it really starts. Let me have a look. Pardon me while I look that up. Okay. It's a long word to type, and I'm like a slow typer. Lake, northern Minnesota, Lake Itasca. Okay. Yeah, there's some vibes. There's some like intense vibes coming out of I'm gonna say Minnesota. Or, I don't know if is there like army bases there, like some they they like storing something there, or like I don't know what they're, but I don't know, whatever. So there's some energy of like disruption there. I don't know, it's getting political. But I kind of feel like because they're close to Canada, they'd be asking for help from Canada, but because of how things have been going in the current regime or whatever in the States, like trying to make enemies out of like the two Canadian Americans, we're trying to belittle Canada, whatever. Like, it would result in the U.S. not getting the assistance that they normally would have. So that's not so great. And then I feel like this kinda you know how there's different states, so, like Minnesota would border I don't even know, like, I know there's Wisconsin on one side, or would Montana be close? Anyway, I kinda feel like whatever's below Minnesota sorry for lack of knowledge here, but, I feel like they would cut a border off, like, while there isn't, like, border guard crossings between states necessarily, maybe there is right now, but, like, there historically hasn't been. Um, I feel like there would become one. Okay, like, it's not like maybe I'll try to tune into some better energies or whatever, but I'm just sort of I was felt like doing a reading on the Mississippi, so here we are. Um, I feel too that like if people were like if roads were blocked and they wanted to take the river as a means of transportation, it would be chaotic. I feel like the best thing people could do in a time of crisis like that would be to not migrate, but to like get to know your neighbors. This has come up in other readings I've done. Like, who do you know on your block? Like, what are your various skills? You know, doctor, lawyer, preacher, gardener, babysitter, like cook, like whatever. And really form a community. And so you don't feel that kind of WTF, uh, like, uh, like life is full of changes and uh, that never stops. So it's like to ride out these cycles, it's good to like know your neighbors and like kind of work together in a way so that you're not having to like do sudden migration and like things like that. That's the advice I get. Like for instance, like I've been spending this time in the country and like gave me the time to be like, okay, I'm gonna start my sourdough for the first time. Like, kind of make my own yogurt, like whatever, like, but it's just doing those changes in my life has really changed. It's like healthier. Notice I felt healthier, and also it's less expensive, and like you can. It's just like a a good survival skill or whatever, and so it's that kind of thing where you make these like little micro changes, like getting to know like your the people in your community, like what are all your various skills and um, either learned or natural skills, like and just kind of form your own little kingdom there. Not a kingdom in a sense that like power dynamic or something, but like there's a sense of safety and togetherness within just knowing everybody and knowing how you can like trade skills and stuff like that. Okay. Sorry, I'm like I know it's not like funny, but like when I tune in to a reading, it's like positive energy, so it has like a happy quality. So you have to forgive my like giggling and stuff. All right. So, I don't know what's on the east side of the Mississippi, kinda in the north, but I kinda feel like a really argumentative, like, energy from is that, like, St. Louis? Or, uh it's the one with the Sarin and, like, the arc, the gate, whatever the it's a sculpture I wanna see. Um, so yeah, maybe it has to do with these border kinda closures or, like, checkpoints. And maybe there are some people from St. Louis who wanna, like, go west, and they're not allowed to, uh, for a period of time. Um, Again, it would be like the advice would be, like, to not have that urge to migrate. Obviously, like, if there's water rising or something and your place is, like, on a low elevation, you would need to move, but, that's something I always check, like, if I'm interested in a property or something, I always look at the elevation. I want it to be a certain height above water level to even, contemplate it. Like I said, it's all well and good to be near water, but you wanna be, like, up on a hill or something. Um, okay. I kind of feel that, like, because I feel like there's so much pain energy in the Mississippi River, like, it'd be good if people sent it love, you know? Like, whether you are far away from it and you're sending it love just in your mind and in your heart, or if you're able to go there to just send it love and, like, I don't know, throw in some flowers and just appreciation and, like, I feel like that, like, just like if you're nice to a person, they can transform, like, if you're nice to a river, it can transform, so, um, it's an interesting bird call. I don't know what that is. Or is it a chipmunk? It sounds like a bird, but anyway, yeah, I feel like I mean, if you're watching this, you're probably, like, into spirituality on at some point, like, at some in some way. So you'd be open to the idea of wishing somebody or something well, and, I would say that, like, instead of indulging in, like, if news is bringing you down and seems really chaotic, I mean, it's kind of their job, like, they they hired a bunch of staff. They have to pay their fee for, like, broadcasting. They gotta, like, bottom line, they gotta make some money and get eyes on the screen or whatever. So they're gonna come up with a bunch of stuff just to make you look, like, keep you looking at it, and it might not all be helpful, news, as it were. So it's kinda on you to go, like, "Well, how do I want the world to be?" And, like, "Can I put my energy towards that?" And, like, meditation is, like, really powerful because if you think of, the air between everything as just being kinda like this jello, this sort of solid mass that is all connected, and you're part of that, and when you send thoughts into the jello, like, it it has an effect on everything. So, it's on you to, like, take part in that and, like, send good vibes through the universal jello to, make changes and improve stuff. And just understand that, like, TV's just being TV and, like, it's gonna seem very dated, if it doesn't already. Uh, I mean, as time marches on, more and more people are gonna be more strongly intuitive, and we'll just see television as this sort of very, like caveman, like, like, very rudimentary, uh, like entertainment, kinda vaudeville, kinda you know what I mean? Very specific art form, like the person behind the desk seeming very earnest and judgmental and stuff, like, you know how, like, Barbara Walters and Oprah's interviews and stuff like that, or, like, The View, like, it's just like like, in real life, you can't talk to people like that, like, they're just being mean at the end of the day, so it's like it's antisocial. I don't know, it's just like the power dynamic is just off, and it's very dated. Um, but I guess if it sells soap and cars or whatever, it's gonna continue, right? So, okay, so send the Mississippi some good vibes. Um, okay, you know how, like, people that believe in God, like, often go to church and stuff, so you're, like, in a building together, sending good vibes and, like, praying and stuff. You can also like, there's also outdoor services and stuff, or, like but you can also just, like, go outdoors and meditate and pray, like, uh, on your own or with friends. So I feel like, there's a lot of good that can come of doing that kind of meditation and prayer out in nature, and specifically near near the Mississippi, especially in kind of the southern part, like, if it bends, like, to the east in a kinda thing near the south, I don't know where that would be, but, especially around there would be really good right now. And people could just be like, once you do that or, like, once a bunch of people do that, like, people would be like, "Mm, something feels different or better," like like, like, it makes a difference. I also feel like it's, my last, comment on this reading, it looks like I have really like a crew cut or something, but I don't have a crew cut. I just have like a weird kind of mullet that I gave myself. But okay, like there's one other place that feels kind of like really hot-headed. I wish I had like a another layer of like the map on top of what I'm already seeing. But it feels like a city or on the western side of the Mississippi that is about 2/3 of the way down. It feels like a place of strife there or alarm or whatever. I just feel like, okay, there might be certain groups of people who, like, you know how, like, I don't know how much truth there is in it, because I think there's a lot of, like, paid audience members in some of these rallies and stuff. So, but, like, perhaps there are people like, you could call them, like, MAGA or whatever, who've kind of conglomerated into this sort of groupthink of, um, being of outrage about whatever, and, it's giving that kind of thing, like, where there'd be some sort of, let me just look at it so I say it right. It feels like it's being filmed, like, on TV, and there's, like, 1 or 2 or 3 people who are just, like, furious and, like, uh, wanting to trip, like, a bigger reaction. You know how, like, people like, in certain organizations, like, create situations, where there wasn't one by having, like, planting someone in a community and creating, like, turmoil, like, like, maybe there was already, like, a sort of simmering resentment or stress, and then they put in an actor who, uh, sort of makes it worse. Um, so it feels kinda like that, and that's where, like, feeling strong in your community can kinda, like, soften these sorts of situations that are supposed to trigger events that then, like, help some certain people who have an idea of, like, how they want things to go for everybody, and, I'm trying to, like, dance around certain terminology, but I think you know what I mean, and, again, it's, like, on the individual person to feel grounded in their life and in their community, which means taking part and, like, getting to know people and trading skills and, like, making that web, like, stronger than, like, some artificially imposed web of, like, how things are structured that could be worse, you know? Like, for instance, like, I've noticed a change in the medical world since I was a kid, um, where there at some point, like, pharma kinda stepped in and was, like, kinda took over, and, like, the notion of experimentation and, ha almost feels, like, more important than, just, like, making you feel better and off you go. Um, like, I had this experience where, my body wasn't feeling right, and not to be hyper specific, I was being kinda led down this path, uh, like, first of all, in Canada, in Quebec, like, supposedly, like, medical care is free, but, like, it's really they introduced, privatization, like a two-tiered medical thing, and at first it was, like, only, like, fancy people were getting, like, the private healthcare that you pay for, and now it's kinda like they've it feels like there's only one doctor working in the emergency department, like, in every major hospital. Like, you wait a minimum of 6 hours, even in a small town and stuff. So, like, in Montreal, you can wait, like, 22 hours or something, and they don't even give you, like, a TGIF kinda, like, buzzer to, like, to or, call back, whatever. Like, it'd be nice if you could just go home and sleep for a day and then go get your appointment. Anyway, so it's okay, I gotta like keep track of where I'm going here. Um, yeah, so it's sort of taking this sharp left turn where you're like, so I went in. What did I go? It was like, what happened? Um, to just have, like, a rash on my arm or something, something like I don't know, it was like I don't even know what the initial thing was, and then, uh ended up seeing this internal specialist who was, like, really chill guy, whatever, but, like, it he didn't really know, like, what the cause was, and then it kinda, like, went this other way, and then he, like, sent me to like a gynecologist to like just more like internal, like whatever. And then because I'm like older, the lady was like, you should have like a whatever, like just take everything else. What is that called? What's that called? Anyway, and I was like, I don't want to have that operation. Like, what are you talking about? Like, and they were like really pressuring me to go down, like to funnel me down this like path of like more exploration and surgeries and that I just had, and I had to tell them like no, like a bunch of times, and they were still coming after me. Like, I was like, and then I told the internal specialist, I was like, that gynecologist is a mean person and like doesn't listen and very unpleasant and like it was like she'd do this thing where like um I've seen this before where people have, like, a pattern of behavior or whatever, so, like, I'd seen her, like, a couple times, and, like, this last time I was like, "I am not having this. I do not consent to having this operation that you've decided to, like, schedule or whatever." And, and then so she's like first, she was like when I'm just sitting across the desk from her, she's like, "Okay, well, I hear you, whatever." And then as soon as I reach the door and I'm about to leave, the other shoe drops and she says something really like, "Well, you're gonna whatever." And it's just like, "Oh my god." This isn't the doctoring I remember from the '70s. And, anyway, so I was just like I just felt like this greedy vibe off of, this hospital system where they just wanna play with you or, like, I was just thinking, like, what's the what kinda, like, luxury cruise does she get every time, like, she convinces someone to just have, like, a hysterectomy or whatever? Like, what's the kickback on between the 2 doctors, like, recommending each other and, like, whatever? Like, it's just, like, ugh, like, it's so weird, and, anyway, so really going off on different tangents, but, in terms of community building and stuff like that, like, and just feeling, um, more grounded and, like, that the herbs and stuff like that, like, are so effective and, it's not like, there's different Eastern forms of healing, like traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic healing and, like, healing through herbs, and, like, there's so much information out there about it's super helpful, to to like, heal yourself and whatever. So, there might be this pressure coming from the outside, like, of, "You gotta do it this way," or, like, "We'll take charge," and, like, "This is how we do it." But if you, like, really look at the history of allopathic medicine, like Western medicine, it's fairly new, and it also has, um, financial, like, it's all tied up with, you gotta look at the history of, like, when Western medicine really allopathic medicine really came into being and why and, like, who started it and, like, it's, whereas, like, a lot of stuff can be healed naturally, of course, like, setting a broken bone and stuff is useful if you need, but, like, uh, there's a lot of information on, like, healing, and, like, you can grow certain herbs that are useful, like, all the time, like, in your house or on your lawn or whatever. Um, the way to get around, like, these changes right now is to, like, become really grounded and knowledgeable and, like, what can I do here, you know? And, okay. Okay. So, like, in terms of counteracting these sort of planted situations where it's like, "Oh my god," and, like, you have the TV cameras on a situation, like, everybody's going nuts, whatever, but it's like, but if you and your community all know each other and you share skills and there's a certain amount of calm that you can have to, like, ride out a storm of whatever's going on, and that also includes, like, knowing some natural means of healing and just keeping your health up, or, like, maybe, learn about local plants and their benefits and stuff like that. So you don't have to feel like you have that migration instinct doesn't have to kick in, like, "I gotta get out of here," like, the more community-minded everybody gets, the less that feeling of, like, needing to flee will come into place, I feel like. So, it's really long reading. I'll just, like, try to wrap it up with one more thing about the Mississippi. I feel like, singing, I mean, there's a lot of, like, famous musical stuff close to the Mississippi, like amazing music that was recorded, and, uh, I feel like water, like cymatics and stuff, like, when you hum, like, a certain note, like, it makes the water, like, vibrate in beautiful patterns and stuff like that, so I feel like singing, like, even if you're living far away, like, even if you're in Norway or something, and you just wanna sing some healthy vibes, like, to the Mississippi, like, that'll work. Or if you live close, I feel like singing, or even, like, matching, like, nice resonances, like, if you look up look up the healing frequencies and you, like, match that tone or whatever, if you don't feel like coming up with a whole song, um, that helps. So, I really feel that, like, the bottom line here is, like, we all have the capability of turning things around positively, but we have to, like, take part, whatever. So I hope you enjoyed this reading, and I'll talk to you later. If you want to help my channel, you can donate. I have that information in there, or subscribe. I really want to get to like 1,001 someday in my lifetime. So if you're part of that subscription, like, momentum, like, I appreciate you, and If you wanna send me, like, a subject for another reading, you can email me or put a comment in here somehow. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this reading, and take care, and talk to you later.